recorded.
And this is again, it's a recorded message that Cee Driskell did before, and it's on divine order. Just going to say a tiny little bit about Cee, as well as assuming the very demanding role of spiritual leader of Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa. Cee's also at the same time finishing off her ministerial candidate studies at Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute in Kansas, Unity Village. And she continues as well, when time allows, to work privately with students in purposeful growth studies, is what she calls it, focused on awareness of greater consciousness and how to open one's heart to the heart of oneness. She has also run an online school, the Canadian School of Natural Therapy, and Spiritual Development. And perhaps a few things you don't know about her. She also shares with us that her daily passions and lifetime hobbies are to build things out of wood, play drums, guitar, and piano. We're going to have to get her to do that one of these days for us. Care for animals, and to write. And she has just finished writing her 5th book, which is now available. It's called Living the Way of Oneness, and it's a series of stories for reflection and spiritual awakening. So today her talk is on divine order. By the way, she also asked me to mention that when she first begins her talk, she's talking about a certain date in her life, and you will likely all go, what? Because it's a little bit early. It's actually 1996, and this is a date that she'd been a little kid at the time, so she couldn't have done what she said she did at that time. So she just wanted me to mention that to you, so you don't have to go, what? Okay, so let's go. Let's have it.
January 1966. I got this phone call, and it was shocking. Are you sitting down? Said my friend. Then she said, okay, stay calm and put on the Ottawa News. The Ottawa News. Okay, so now I'm a little freaked out because, of course, she said, stay calm, which means don't, you're going to flip out. So at this point, I am beginning to become a little overwhelmed, and I turn on the TV and I sit there and I'm like in total shock. I'm watching a downtown Ottawa street fully lit up on fire. January 1996. More than half a block was on fire, and I was completely baffled. It was a menacing fire. It was terrifying, and I started to cry. She says to me, do you think Albert knows? And I said, I don't know. I don't know. His house was on fire. So I found my phone book and I said, look, I'll call you back. I'm going to call him now and see what's up. So I call him and I say, Albert, hi, it's Cheryl. How you doing? And right away he says, hey, hi, how you doing? So I know right away, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. So I said to him, I am really sorry, Albert, to be the bearer of bad news, but Cathcart Street's on fire. He's, what? Total shock. You can imagine the nightmare going on at his end. And he says, okay, that's it. Thanks for calling me. I'm heading down there right now to see what I can save. He was a big ocean kayaker, and he had these huge kayaks in his hallway, all up on pulleys and everything. And he was heading down there now. The next day, all across Canada, there's this image on the front page of many newspapers that said ice palace in Ottawa, basically because the massive fire led to a lot of ice being formed on the remnants of what was left of the 7 units that burned down. That was quite a shock. So this, of course, is January in Canada, and it was going to turn to ice, all that water. A few months later, I get a call from another friend, and she says, you're not going to believe this, but I was just on Cathcart Street where they're doing the demolition of the remnants of the fire. You remember? I said, yeah, of course I remember the fire. Well, they're demolishing everything. And it turns out at one point they pulled out a large chunk of construction. And there was one room left completely untouched by smoke and fire. It was from the house next to Albert's. And she says, it was your room. My mouth dropped open. You see, Albert had been my neighbor for 5 years. And just 6 months before, I felt pushed out of that house, that I had to leave. There was this big sense, not only was my life turning over in circles for many reasons, but I could have stayed. I could have found a roommate. But instead, I decided to leave. I knew there was something in me that said, you have to get out of here. So I did. Not only did that room that I prayed and meditated in for 5 years survive completely, but so did I, my animals, and all my stuff completely okay. Most everybody else lost everything. All my friends, I made friends with everybody on that street. My neighbor on one side lost his baby grand piano and all of his antiques, and Albert lost all of his gear. Fortunately, everybody survived, especially me and my other neighbor who had moved out just before me, a senior man who went into a senior's residence. The two people physically unable to really manage life, because I was physically ill at the time, were warned in advance to leave. It's better if you get out of there now. Here's a quote that really struck me when I was thinking about what I was going to share with you today. And it goes, you are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it's clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should be. I love that. I love that. It's a quote from The Many Faces of Prayer by Thomas Shepard. The universe is unfolding as it should be, as it needs to be. Let me paraphrase Psalm 37:23. The steps of a man, of anyone, are established by the one who delights in this way. And what I'm hearing this says is we recognize that God, the one loving source, orchestrates our path and guides us with purpose. This divine order ensures that our steps are in alignment with the will of all that is. There's a reason I got out of that row house 6 months before. Years and years of praying and meditation to ensure my increased health also saved that room. That's power. I would not have done well in that fire. I would not have done well at all. I had a beautiful dog and a cat. I was so sick at the time. I could barely make it to the couch many days. I was either on the couch or in the bed most of the time. But having that 6 months where I could actually have prepared for that move, where I wouldn't have the psychological trauma. Everything was packed. I was somewhere else already. And it's what I really needed. And I'm a good listener. I listen to my inner divinity. And I was protected because of that. There is divine order. The two people in those 7 units who were carrying the heaviest physical loads were guided to move out in advance. Fortunately, nobody else was hurt. Thank you, loving source. Today, I continue to remain very grateful for that time. There There are three main things I truly appreciate about divine order. One, it requires and teaches us to learn to be present. Two, it asks us to reorder our thoughts and sometimes our lives. And three, it provides us with the grace of flow, natural order. So let me explain. There's a will with divine order. When something is supposed to happen, it's going to happen. And if you're paying attention, if you're being present, you can survive just about anything. I was listening. I knew I had to move, although I could have gotten a roommate. I was watching and listening to all the signs. I was being present. The more present I was, the more signs came through. And nowadays, I mean, I'm more busy than ever. And so sometimes I miss out on the signs, but I do try to be as present as possible to understand where I'm being guided to go, just like I was guided to unity. Full presence is required to really hear the signs and divine order. We're being guided. I trust that implicitly. Even if you can manage 5, 10, 20 minutes a day just to be still, and you can ask, what is it I need to understand? What is here today for my highest good to know? So part of 2 is divine order calls us to reorganize our thinking, reorganize our lives. I see the opposite of order not as disorder, but as a call to reorganize, or what I would say is reorder our thinking, reorder our lives. It's so much more loving to say reorder than disorder. In fact, I would say that years ago, I was uncomfortable with the term anxiety disorder. When people have anxiety, it's to guide them, it's to nourish their lives forward. What's disordered about that? It's about giving us the opportunity to reorder our thinking so we have less anxiety, but so we see what's right in front of us and needs to be attended to. That's reordering. There's no disorder there. Now, if you live in a state of awareness of those first 2 experiences, you could enter flow more easily too. We all have moments of absolute flow. You might not observe them, but we do have them. And when you're being more still, you can feel divine flow when we're paying attention. Everything just works out with flow. If you've noticed what it feels like, it feels great. It feels great. Everything's in order. We feel everything's right with the world and nothing's getting to us. That's flow. We are in a natural, divine flow at those times. Flow isn't something you can fully choreograph or manipulate in any way because it's a dance of grace from the divine loving source and our time that we spend being present with it. And this requires work. Flow can come if you're still, but it can also require us to be present and put in the effort sometimes to experience what becomes effortless, because flow is effortless. It requires us to take time to breathe. How often do you actually just stop and take a long, slow, deep breath? Just do that a few times every hour. It'll help. And to enter times of silence and to be grateful for all that you have. That helps us enter flow. And sometimes to add prayerful moments or intentions or positive affirmations, as you know, or spend longer time in our meditations. Essentially, we know that we need to clear our mind and think only good thoughts, as in our principle at unity, number 3. We have to work with our thinking to create the best life possible. And then we add principle number 4, which is to become active participants in prayer, active participants in meditation. Why are we so reluctant to engage with these practices that give us the greatest potential to live the best life? I've learned that. I've learned that I can go from being bedridden to living a great life, running around the fields and up into the woods with my dogs and my family, because now I spent years meditating and praying with the indwelling source, and it saved my life. I love flow, and I get it. I watch it a lot, so you can do this too. So, for instance, birds flying from branch to branch or eating out of your feeder at home. Just watch them. Spend 5-10 minutes, half an hour. Watch them. Or watch your cat or your dog lying still and just see their beautiful little belly going up and down. Or for the cats, listening to their purring. Be connected. Be in flow. Be at peace. For me, I can spend an hour watching my chickens and the roosters going at their food. They're so methodical, they're so precise, and they're so just amazing little creatures to watch. And just watching them gently go back and forth and do their thing, I enter flow so easily. As I might have said before, that's my spouse calls them my therapy. Which is why I've got them staying at Cheryl Ritz, just across the street here, across the driveway. So we know in life we need to stop and get chill, right? We need to just be still for a bit here and there. It's so important. And sometimes you'll take the time and you'll see that, oh, that just happened at the right moment, with the exact thing that I needed. That's divine order. And I mean, imagine if you're really, really listening, how many fires you could really avoid. Small fires, big fires, so to speak, metaphorically, the fire that gets in the way. You could imagine that if you listened, how much you would be guided to not have to be experiencing as many fires as may have occurred on your path. So I am a story lover, as you know, and I'm going to share this little story with you. It's from my recent book. And the story is called The Missing Stripes. It is an adult story, but I use it for kids as well. I really enjoy this story. So a zebra is running wild through the forest and came upon a gazelle sipping water from a spring. "Whoa, whoa, zebra, why are you running so wildly?" said the gazelle. "What could be so upsetting? I don't see a lion chasing you." Now, the gazelle was actually slightly worried that there was a lion and that she hadn't seen the lion yet. "No, no, no," said the zebra. "Phew. It's not that at all. It's just that I seem to have lost my stripes and I can't find them anywhere." "Oh," said the gazelle. "Well, I see them. Look here." She pointed to the black stripes on his back. "No, they're gone," he said. "I woke up this morning and noticed that I'd lost all my black stripes. Now I don't know what happened. Now I only see white stripes," said the zebra. Said the gazelle, smiling. "Yes, well, I can see why you'd be worried." The gazelle wandered into the woods to eat and chuckled over the zebra losing his black stripes. I love that little story. Now, how does that leave you feeling? What are you thinking when you hear that story? Perception is important. We just saw how overwhelmed the zebra was by his belief that the black stripes were missing. Yet we know they were there still. But for some reason on that day, the zebra could only see and claim his white stripes. Interesting. Today, for the zebra, his whole life just went out of order. You know what that's like? His thinking was not in flow. And yet, does it really matter if he sees only the white stripes and not the black? Does it really matter? Probably not. But what does matter is the way his thoughts were ordered. And at that time, the zebra had no sense of being in order at all. He was overwhelmed. He was confused to the point of being frightened. This happens to all of us from time to time. We get this feeling of being out of order. And guess what? It could be as simple as taking the time to breathe and allow our thoughts to come back into reorder, into flow, where we feel the best, we feel the safest, more at peace. Just a little bit of time, and that zebra, had he sat still a little bit of time and gone, I see, black, white, black, not just all the white ones. So we have to allow. One of my favorite things is allow. When I am in rush hour traffic, I just hold on tightly to the steering wheel and I go deep breathe, allow. Makes all the sense. Keeps me at peace, keeps everybody safe around me. Let it be okay that 1 minute I don't feel in order, but with loving attention and care, through breathing, meditation, and prayer, or some other way that you've encountered, you can become reordered and maybe feel flow again. And that's why the zebra had trouble seeing his black stripes. He was being called to learn how to reorder his thinking. We don't know why, but maybe his new way of thinking would actually save his life later. It's divine order. Trust it. So not long ago, I had last minute cancellation of weekend plans. A weekend is a long time for me, especially when it's the only time you might have off. As you know, we're around together most weekends, but every so often I have a weekend off and I like to go somewhere. But I'd put aside a whole weekend, and then out of the blue, the other person made plans and didn't tell me. So I'm calling up on Thursday and I'm going, hey, how's it going? I'm coming Saturday morning at 10. You all set to go? We'll have dinner, blah, blah, blah. And she says, sorry, I made other plans. So now I could be annoyed. I could be frustrated. I could have gotten angry, but I didn't. I said, okay. I know what happens in these situations. I've learned, for instance, that if a client last minutes me, that's okay. It was meant to happen because something else is going to come up. Another client's going to call and need an emergency session, or I'm going to need to do something else. So on that weekend, I decided I was going to let this be okay because I trust divine order. It's one weekend in life. I let it go and I reorganized my thinking. And I had great experience. I had an amazing weekend. Amazing weekend with my partner, our animals, and I got a lot done. A lot done for Usco and schoolwork. This seemingly out of order cancellation actually brought so much more to my life. I ended up getting so much done and feeling great. Sometimes we just need to accept the will of divine order from our loving source, God, and just allow things to be as they are intended to be. Sometimes we get in the way of natural order. there is this Native American spiritual law, and it states what's coming is the only thing that can happen. Nothing, but absolutely nothing that happens to us could have been different. Not even the slightest detail. There's simply no, if I had done it differently, things would be different. Everything, yes, every situation that happens to us in life is absolutely perfect. Even when our mind resists our ego and refuses to accept it. Just nothing could be different. The order and can be a part of entering flow with the order so you don't have to face so many fires or lose a sense of yourself like a zebra. Does that make sense? You might have heard of the profound teacher, scholar, who later became a saint. That would be St. Augustine. He was a great scholar. So I'd like to share something magical that he wrote. So probably 4th century, early 5th century, because he died in the 5th century early. So here we go. First say that when I came across this, it was perfect order. I needed a new quote for my talk, and it was right there, but in a different experience. I was studying for something completely different. And I came across this Augustine quote, and I was just like, wow, that's it. That's the one. So it was perfect order. St. Augustine says you when he's talking about God, okay? Says, how late I came to love you, O beauty so ancient and so fresh. How late I came to love you. You were within me, yet I'd gone outside to seek you. Unlovely myself, I rushed toward all those lovely things you had made, and always you were with me. I was not with you. All those beauties kept me far from you, although they would not have existed at all unless they had their being in you. You called, you cried, you shattered my deafness, you sparkled, you blazed, you drove away my blindness, you shed your fragrance, and I drew in my breath, and I pant for you. I tasted, and now I hunger and thirst. You touched me, and now I burn with longing. I love this. It's so amazing. Now that is a love letter to the divine. Thank you, St. Augustine, for that. Nowadays, by the way, this is considered part of the theopoetic genre. It's the expression of love for the divine that engages all 5 senses. It's not necessarily poetry, but it's theopoetic. So why did it take St. Augustine so long to get this? God's inside of me too. Oh my goodness, imagine. It's more than the second face of God, which is the external God that we see as an entity. It is within me. It is the immanent God. It is the ground of my being. How long he went as a theologian without knowing that. He himself was surprised to discover God within him, the oneness, the loving source. That's why I love this letter so much. It is so expressive, so beautiful. So he was living divine order. It's perfect. He was not prepared to unfold his theologies any other way before that time. It needed to be as it was. All the people in the world, the planets, the earth, and the skies, all come together in the same moment to unfold the next moment together for all of us. And this was his moment. He had to wait. And following this, he was able to offer the most profound teachings. So order for me is the greatest power. And you know, unity, we have 12 main powers. And I mean, I love them all, don't get me wrong, but order is my wow power. This is the one I go to all the time. And it's led me to trust life. Timing is very important to me. And I'm prepared to listen to what God's will through divine order is telling me and go where I'm needed. What about you? Are you willing to listen and go where you're needed? You are being guided not only to live a good, great life, but to be of service. And if you listen, you'll know where you can be of service. You're part of the universal order. So you'll be guided to go where you're needed. And divine order is your guide. So please listen. A friend of mine really listened, and this is one of the most profound divine order stories ever. In the year 2000, she was working in New York City in one of the Twin Towers. And just several months before 9/11, 2001, her father got sick, and she went home and quit her job and cared for him in the last months of his life. As a result, she survived 9/11. All in order, all now in divine flow. If she had resisted or she was being called, where would she be today? Today, she says her dad saved her life. His dying saved her, which might have felt completely out of order for the family, right? But it was divine timing, a sacrifice of her father he made in divine order for the life of his daughter. Talk about divine order. Wow, we need to trust. We need to trust divine order. Let it guide you. At Unity, we know that order is called the power of order, yet for some reason you've noticed I call it divine order all the time. Divine order. Perhaps it's because it always helps me feel secure. It frees me of worry and anxiety. And when I cooperate with it, everything flows really well. It feels divine to me, only from a source so magnificent that I could absolutely love and feel cherished by it and nurtured and guided all in the same moment. And that's how I interpret divine, my divinity in association with the one loving source. It led me here today doing exactly what I'm doing, what I feel I'm meant to do. And I am eternally grateful for being here. And I'm so happy to be here. In fact, I trust what arises in my life so absolutely because I believe in divine order that whatever happens is okay. Whatever happens is okay. May sound really out there to some people, may sound a little freaky. So the house burned down. That's not okay for most people. And yet maybe burning that whole row, half a block down then led to multiple people being safe and alive later. I lived there. I saw sparks flying out of the walls during thunderstorms. I knew this place was at risk. I'm glad I got out of there. Sometimes divine order can feel really crappy. But trust even those days. Move with it. Learn to flow with it. Just allow. Because you are being guided to something even more profound. I don't doubt any mistake, any challenge, any breaking point, any financial up or down, because I trust that I'm being guided to something profound, something better that gets me all the more close in connection and communion with the loving source, and forward to an even greater life. For me, there's always something at the next turn waiting because of divine order. And we can all believe this if we want to. In fact, I honestly feel that we're all guided to commune more deeply with the divine, not just have safe and happy lives, but that divine order has really got a purpose. It's a momentum towards happiness, healthiness, and greater communion with your inner spirit, your inner guide, God, the divine, the Tao, the Brahman, the light, whatever you want to call it. For me, the divine order is the greatest resource, providing the resources we need to get in flow with life and our natural divinity. And the more we believe and trust this, the more it happens, the more you just see it all the time. You see it serendipitously, you see it intuitively, you see it immediately, just happens. That's my truth. And truth for me is faith. It's another power of unity, the power of faith. At these times, the complexities disappear and everything seems to advance when we have faith. Do you have faith that divine order is managing the safe evolution of your life, the healthy and happy evolution of your life? Do you have faith that your indwelling source is constantly guiding, supporting, and correcting everything you need to get back into flow? If you believe this, it's more likely going to happen, because then you're not getting in the way. You're listening. So get out of the way and allow the guidance through. Listen and watch for where you're needed, like my friend in New York City, or go where you're being guided to, like me, leaving the home before the fire, or take the actions to reorder your thinking, your mind, like the zebra. It's all divine order. And it can be a significant part of the guidance system that's working in you right now. You'd be surprised how many times your life has already been saved by divine order. I love it. Please now join